Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Impossible. I am your co host, Austin, and today we have another example of Divide and Conquer. I'm here in Salt Lake City, and as you can see, mountains in the background. It's beautiful here. Absolutely stunning. One of my favorite places to be. And today, I wanted to focus on taking your goals and putting them into action and how to and kind of where you're going to find yourself in how you execute such goals. So for today in this adaptive series, we're going to focus on how you move forward. So I want to kind of start off with when you move into action itself, it's good to note that you still need to have the how and why you're executing these goals in the back of your mind. We want to imagine this journey as the everyday having such an impact on your goals and having some type of progress, but also the ability to study what's going on and honing in on little issues that may arise, because there are going to be some problems that arise. If your plan is executed to perfection, good on you. That's that's fantastic. But if not, we need to be ready. So to start off, I wanted to go back to something that I mentioned in a previous episode about your inner critic. So I know we spoke very much in a broad sense about the inner critic and how you really need to be aware of it and be willing to work with it. And today I wanted to dive in a little bit more. So with that critic, it is crucial for you to understand that critiquing not only your goals on a consistent basis, but also realizing that the critiques themselves are very valuable tools for you to have such an impactful execution of your goals. So first off, you need to be willing, and I mentioned this before, that you need to be honest with yourself. There are going to be some moments where you have a problem come up. You have a little snag in your immediate goal structure upon the daily basis execution of your goals. And so honesty is going to come through so well for you to so that in being honest with yourself, you can get across and get beyond any type of manipulation or dishonesty, but also it's not helpful at all to fabricate a problem and put the blame onto something else. There are some external factors that you need to be aware of and you need to be willing to accept. And we're all going to have those. We're all going to have those. I certainly didn't expect to be diagnosed with cancer at 27 years old. But what I didn't do was not go and try to find some type of purpose, some sort of purpose that would ultimately help me, but then, how I could ultimately reciprocate this kind of experience with you. But in terms of my goals, you can't just take some type of external factor, no matter how intense it is, and not accept that, be honest with yourself and move forward. But with factors that you can't control, these are the ones that you really need to focus on, that we really want to take a look at and be willing to be honest in our self-evaluations. So self-evaluations are are something that you can set up structurally and keep in a more organized fashion, so that when you go and self-critique and be honest with yourself and stay positive with yourself, you can take those self-evaluations, write them down, put them into your electronic device, pen and paper for me, and that's where you can be positively and honestly critical with yourself and have it recorded. This is the recording of these evaluations are paramount. I am a I have not been the best with recording such evaluations in the past. I've also been extremely dishonest and very much negative. So that's why I'm trying to promote the opposite of such fact of such what's that word? Of such ways of going to that. So what I want to say is that the recording of such evaluations are critical, but also in this time of execution and action, you don't need to be self-evaluating all of the time. So it's going to be dependent upon your type of goal and the duration of said goals that you have set. So, I mean, and this is very much going to be subjective for you, how you determine it's going to work best for you. You're not going to know how best it's going to work for you in the beginning. So for example, if you had a goal that you had set for a duration of 3 months, and you are one that I can at least perpetuate is for lifting. If I had a goal that I had set for 3 months and I wanted to jump a certain amount of weight, maybe I would self-evaluate, on a weekly basis. That's typical for a lifting sense. If you get through a week's worth of training, and that's when you're able to kind of stop for a moment and really self-evaluate what had happened during that week. I think that's a really good example. And these evaluations that happen on a more common or often basis, you don't need to be, you really shouldn't worry about filling pages as well. So so definitely keep them often, but don't cram your mind with it, and don't allow these evaluations and these critiques to impede some of the execution and some of that that daily dosage of just conquering the world. Don't let them get in the way. But you need to be you need to have the critique tool in your arsenal. So yeah, and again, the acceptance of things, like we said about the external factors. Well, with the factors that we can control, you need to be willing to accept that some of your ideas on how to execute your goals are not going to be the best of ideas. They may not work for you. You conjured them up in the beginning and they seem to be going well, but then either the idea on how to execute gets in your way, or it simply just wasn't a good idea to begin with. Maybe it's something to where So let's say I'm going for that 3 month goal of putting 50 pounds on my deadlift PR, and a month into it, I find out that consuming 300 milligrams of caffeine before my set is actually impeding my progress and not helping, just as an example. And that is where an idea that you have in the beginning, on how to execute your goal may not work. And that's fine. But you need to be willing to accept that situations as such could and probably will, or even should, arise during your execution. So you need to be willing to accept that and work out what could be better to follow up with that. So maybe in my case, I need to consume 150 milligrams of caffeine, or I need to consume no caffeine. Maybe it's just something to where you get too hyped up, blood pressure's through the roof, and you're just like, wow, I can't lift this because I'm getting lightheaded, or I can't lift this because I just feel too jittery. It's just an example. Please, for those of you who lift, just relax. But just as an example, the ideas that you have from the beginning may not work out. There are little variables that, if you can stay tuned with them, but don't obsess over them, but stay in tune with them, stay in contact with them, and you may find out that they just don't work. And that's fine. That's totally fine. Be willing to accept that those can arise, possibly will and should, and that there are better inputs that you can put in for a more valuable and more rewarding output. So like I said, you don't want to get cogged down by these evaluations, by these critiques. You need to allow yourself in the immediate goals, in these daily portions, to just execute. Stay aware of what's going on, and again, record, but don't get bogged down by it. You need to be willing to keep your focus forward, keep moving forward, and realize that there are going to be some fairly unfavorable winds that will come your way. So, one huge kind of analogy that I really enjoy using for myself is I've never captained a boat in my life, and I certainly don't intend to necessarily a ship. But what I like to use is, I have to admit, back in the day, I played, still love, but I played a lot of Assassin's Creed. So there's a fun fact about Austin, and in Assassin's Creed, 4 Black Flag, you are Captain Edward Kenway, I believe is the character's name, and you're captaining a ship, a pirate ship. It's a lot of fun. Just bear with me. And so in that game, a lot of imagination is required for you to really enjoy the experience, and I really love seeing that. I picture that when I think of how moving forward can put you through so many challenging times, because when you're captaining a ship out in the middle of the ocean, you hear of it a lot, and I experienced it in video games, so that means that it's true, is that you're not going to have favorable winds all of the time. You're going to go through some suffering. You're going to have days that are absolutely brutal and are going to challenge your commitment, your faith to the execution of your goals. So you need to be. So that's why a lot of these, the self-evaluations that kind of keep your ship steady, but ultimately your dedication to executing your goals is what keeps you moving forward. You need to be willing to, and you need to be able, and you need to be willing to practice and better your execution, but ultimately the handling of the sails on the ship to make sure that you're heading in the right direction. That certainly is, a huge thing for me, and I know I have a quote here from Seneca that deals with this as well. Is, if a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. And I really like that. Heard that quote for quite some time now. A lot of the Stoic kind of pages on Instagram that I follow, Seneca gets quoted quite frequently for just the for for the reputation that he has. But if a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. So again, you're going to experience some unfavorable winds because that's just a part of the journey of life. That's just a part of the journey of traveling from one place to a better place. Well, hopefully it's a better place. Hopefully your goals, as we discussed before, are positive and lead you to a better version of you in some manner. And so we know there are going to be some unfavorable times. External factors, internal factors, evaluations, critiques, but ultimately keep moving forward. If you know the port to which you sail to, the winds are there regardless, but they may be unfavorable to you in the moment, but they're going to be favorable to you in the end, because the process of executing your goals, the daily grind, the short-term goals that you achieve, over the 1, 3, 6, 9 month, 10, 1 year periods, to then your long-term goals, seeing and looking back upon how you've gone through said situations is really beneficial. It is really, you'll find that you're thankful and grateful that you've gone through the unfavorable winds that you will determine to be favorable when you look back. I look back. For me, I look back upon the months of chemotherapy that, in the moment, I promise you, fun, excitement, enjoyment were not a part of my vocabulary during those times in the immediate sense. And they were extremely, the winds that I experienced during that journey were extremely unfavorable. Not favorable at all. Really, they weren't. But looking back at it now, I'm thankful for the individual that you see here through your screen, that you hear through the audio of this really cool mic, by the way. Love this thing. It's kind of distracting, but that's the whole point. I look back upon those times in a very favorable perspective, a very favorable outlook, because I know that those challenges seemed impossible at the time, but going through that impossible, facing that possible and being impossible, allowed me to do the impossible. And I really do mean that. And I tell you that, and I share that with you, having gone through months of chemotherapy, having gone through a relapse, and currently in this moment, having no idea if I still have cancer in me or not. Even with taking the proper scans, running the proper tests, I don't know. But that is the opportunity for me to face unfavorable winds on my journey to a port that of which I do know. I know where I'm going. I know where I would like to be. And though Mother Nature has the ability to really, really mess up your day, ultimately, you come out on the other end having held steadfast, having held to the commitments that you've made to yourself and to yourself that will be in the future. the commitment that you've held to others, even if that, whatever your goals may be. The realization that something beautiful will come out in the end makes it all worth it. And with the timing of now and of this recording, the Olympics are going on, and I wanted to bring up an individual, an Olympian runner, a Greek-American Olympian runner, Lexi Papas. I had actually first heard of her quite 3 or 4 years ago. 3 years ago, something like that. She had done a short film with Marriott. I stay at Marriott hotels. Shout out to Marriott. They take good care of me, and I reward them with 300 plus nights a year of my loyalty. So good times. And so she had done a short film about her. She'd taken a trip back to Greece to visit her roots, and it was a fantastic short film, and she actually holds the record, I believe, for a Greek woman 10K in the Olympics, I believe. I should have written those facts down, but it was a time of 31:36, which for a 10K, that's awesome. I would hope to finish a 10K sub 1 hour. So, yeah, incredible. But she had, and it's funny. So I've known of her for a few years now, because that short film runs on repeat on the TVs here. They have like 4, 5, 6 different ones that run, and for a while it was on there. I don't think it's on there anymore, but it's fine. But this morning, actually, when I was prepping for this podcast, she just popped up in my Instagram feed, just randomly. She had talked about the 1/3 rule, something that I believe a coach of hers had told her. I forget that detail, but she had discussed this 1/3 rule on how dealing with this journey, like how you deal with this journey and the days that are within it. And I do want to just put a disclaimer in here of that I haven't had time to digest this idea because I just heard of it this morning, but I wanted to share it with you for just another example. I want to try in these talks about adapting. If there's one example out of 100 that I share with you, which 100's a lot of examples, probably shouldn't have said that. That's fine. Of the many examples that I share with you, if there's one that can really capture the essence of your perspective, I think that then I have completed my goal in helping you somehow in some way. So it's the 1/3 rule of 1/3 of the time you're going to feel good. 1/3 of the time you're going to feel okay. And 1/3 of the time you're going to feel not necessarily bad, but exhausted. Mentally and physically exhausted. And it was a short description that she had given, and I've had just some moments to try to think about it. But I do like this example. I do like this mindset to a point. And the math behind it, I think that's the biggest part. But I certainly agree with, you're going to have good days. You're going to have days that are just okay. And you're going to have days that you really need the commitment and the discipline to get through. And not that it's impossible to get through, but you're able to get through it, but it's going to be rough. It's going to be a nasty day. So, so the good days they're going to occur, and you're going to feel fantastic about the direction that you're heading. You're going to feel fantastic about just how you feel mentally and physically, and your preparations and your preparedness and your ultimate daily how you feel on that day. And then there are going to be days that you feel okay. You're going to be, mentally you may not be 100% there, but you're moving. Things could be going worse, but ultimately, you got to the gym. You felt okay. You felt, you got through your reps. You got through your sets. You moved good weight, and progress was made. You can't say no progress was made. And then there are going to be days that you feel exhausted. You're going to feel like, maybe physically somebody just figuratively, ran you over, with a bus. Pun intended for those who know. You're going to feel like, your body just, you can't move. You don't want to get out of bed. Mentally, it feels like cobwebs. The gears are not really turning, and you try to intake 300-400 milligrams of caffeine. Nothing seems to be working. Those days are going to happen, and you need to be willing to accept that in those days, again, your commitment to your goals and your dedication and your discipline are ultimately what going to get you through. But you need to be willing to accept that those are going to happen. You're going to have those. And the comment was made that if you're feeling good all of the time, like let's say you're feeling good 6 days out of the week or even 7, you're always feeling good, you're always feeling fantastic. Then there's, to a point, the thought that you are not pushing yourself enough. Now, again, I would like to personally think through that more, because I want you to feel that the goals are, pushing you. But again, if some of your ideas on how to execute for your goals are not intense enough, they're not maybe pushing you enough to get to your goal. You don't want to end up, you don't want to run a 10K, get to the starting line, start this journey, and then at 8 kilometers, you just stop and realize, oh, I have 2 more kilometers to go, but how I wanted to execute and my execution and the ideas on how to execute only got me to 8 kilometers. No, you got to get to 10. You have to get to 10. That's how you achieve your goals. You have to get to the finish line. Run through the finish line, but there is a point to which you have to get to achieve your goals. And so, you don't want to be feeling great all the time. Again, it's an interesting way to put it, in that you're not pushing yourself enough. I like the idea of the third, the 1/3 rule. I do like that, because it does explain as to the types of days that you're going to have. But, again, the math is what I'm interested in. So, because I do want you to feel good the majority of the time. I think that would be fantastic, which in this case here, you could probably take away that 2/3 of the time you're feeling okay or great. But yeah, so that's just another example. So the 1/3 rule of 1/3 of the time you're feeling good, great. 1/3 of the time you're feeling okay. Things are getting done, but you could have a smile on for more hours within the day. And the 1/3 of the time you're feeling exhausted, mentally and physically exhausted. And those are going to happen. That's not, I'm not trying to say that you're not going to have bad days. I'm pretty sure throughout this episode, previous episodes, and future episodes, we're going to let you know that these days will occur. You will have days that you are just not miserable, but you could have some miserable days. But I want to put on the tag of exhausted, because you don't need to worry about being miserable. You have the ability to chase a goal that's going to make you a better person. So I personally don't see a point in allowing yourself to be miserable during that. That could be a bit more of the hard knock side of my experiences, but just try your best not to be miserable, but be willing to accept that you're going to have days where you're exhausted. So yeah, and the last note of that is, you've made the commitment. You need to keep going. The 1/3 rule explains the days, but it explains the days of which the journey that you have put yourself on. You need to keep that commitment to yourself. You need to keep dedicated. You need to keep disciplined to get through it. And there's also a highway with a very steep slope going that way, that the occasional big rig likes to go up and down. You can see the double pane glass, but it only helps so much, which is fine. Can't open the window, sucks, but is what it is. So to finish up for this episode is one last example. And this one, I would say, has a lot more of a connective, attainable sense for a majority. In that, I forget what episode it was. I tried looking it up, couldn't find it precisely, but Joe Rogan on his podcast had once given us a perspective that I, again, feel that the majority of us would be able to connect with. And that on this journey of life, but in the execution of your goals, act as if a camera crew for the documentary of you, for the documentary of Austin, for the documentary of our founder and fearless leader, Matt Hill, the documentary of you, that you're being recorded, you're being followed. Act as if you have signed a contract with somebody and they want to follow you on your path to deadlifting 500 pounds, to learning a new language, to buying a new house, whatever goal you may have, to running a 10K sub 32 minutes. Whatever the goal is, act as if on the daily, on the hour, on the minute by minute, there is a camera crew following you, recording you. And don't take this as in a creepy manner. you don't have to let this thought or this example to be so intrusive. But I really do believe that, because we understand on a documentary sense, we've all seen them, and on some platform or some television channel, and we know that the documentary captures the good, the bad, and the ugly, and kind of fits in with the 1/3 rule, but it's going to capture, your daily triumphs, your daily somewhat monotonous but like clockwork activities, and it's going to document the utter chaos that could ensue from you trying to better yourself. And again, we've all seen the documentaries. We have all seen a documentary or two, the vast majority of us. And so we know that it can capture all of those aspects of a team, a group, a nation, whatever the documentary that you've seen is about. It captures all aspects. And so what you want to do is act as if the camera crew is following you 24/7, so that when you achieve your goal, not if, when, stay positive, when you achieve your goal and you look back at that recording, you look back at that documentary, the documentary of Austin, the documentary of you can look back and go, wow, I did that. I'm proud. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of what I was able to accomplish. I'm proud of what I had to do to better myself. You should be impressed to some degree as to the challenges that you faced, the unfavorable winds that ended up to be truly favorable. You need to look back knowing that what you've done for you will better those around you. Because if you are able to optimize an aspect of your life that is honest, positive, and ultimately beneficial for you, it would be all of those for the environment around you, for the people around you, for your community, dependent upon your goal. But you understand what I mean. Better for everybody. Not just for you, but for everybody as well. Because no matter your opinion, we may or may not be alone in this universe. We don't know. But we do have each other on this floating in ether, oblique spheroid rock zooming through space around a constantly exploding, constantly thermonuclear ball of gas. So we are here for each other. Regardless of what you believe, we're here for each other. So act accordingly. If you can work on yourself and you become a better person to any degree, that's going to better those around you. And that's what we do here in Impossible Performance. We try to help you face the impossible by teaching you on how to be impossible, in the hopes that you will do the impossible. Because we know you can. And we try to lead by example to the best of our ability. So, thank you for listening. This has been extremely exciting to be writing this series. It's It's been a lot of work, but ultimately a lot of fun. And we're going to continue to release more episodes. There's a lot more to come. Still a lot of pages left in this book. And ultimately we want to share this game plan with you, because ultimately it's not for us. It's not just for Matt. It's not just for myself. It's not just for the individuals on Team Impossible. It's for everybody. And for the aspects in our lives that we've been able to impact on a beneficial and positive manner by being honest with ourselves. We want to share that with you. Because if it can help you in some way, again, if 1 out of 100 examples hits that sweet spot and you're like, wow, there we go, that's a job well done. Because us here at Impossible Performance are striving to build a global culture of strength, fostering a spirit of growth, in constant pursuit of the impossible. Take care, and as always, be impossible.